Hi, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us for the first Asian Microsoft BizApps Women in Tech session for year 2021. I am so pleased to be here. Thank you for our brilliant organizers for setting up this meetup and for inviting me to speak at this. And also, I want to say special thanks to Mano and Eliza for your support and making this happen. So for today's session, I'm going to be talking about using PCF for better collaboration. Before all that, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Tae Rim Han, but everybody knows me as Tae. I'm a proud Kiwi. I'm a Korean Kiwi, as I'm originally from South Korea, but spent most of my childhood and young adult life in New Zealand before jumping across the ditch to live here in lovely Sydney, Australia. I'm a Dynamics 365 application specialist at Blackmores, and for those who do not know Blackmores is an Australia's leading natural health company known for their vitamins and nutritional supplements. Professionally, I've been a developer and a consultant for about a decade, and mostly working with Microsoft technology. I love problem solving. I love putting solutions together with the right tools. A bit of a geek, so you'll always find me with my fingers in multiple pies. My current fascination is with developing PCF, and many of you would know this, and that's why I'm going to share this with you today. If you want to know more about me or know what I'm currently working on, please reach out in these links below, where I expertly blog and also my LinkedIn profile there. So let's start, shall we? So the next slide. So collaboration. What does it mean to you? I think this word cloud here sums up quite nicely what we think when it comes to collaboration. To highlight some of the words that's in here, so here we have groups, work, tools, together, sharing, communicating, all that, right? So, well, 2020 was a really interesting year. Due to COVID-19 pandemic, the way people engage and work together has dramatically changed. For example, working, collaborating, chatting, and having meetings on Microsoft Teams became almost second nature to most people. Like, prime example, look at us here on Friday evening on Microsoft Teams sharing what we love. So I'm sure I'm actually speaking for everyone who's here today and who'll be watching this later. The idea of creating collaborative solution on Power Platform is not a new concept for us, but with increased number of people adopting tools such as Microsoft Teams for organizing their work and their team's work, it forces a shift in our thinking as makers and developers on how we are going to build solutions that will aid the users use these collaborative tools better with our existing platforms. So today, I'm going to concentrate on presenting few of these collaboration scenarios on model-driven app and how we can use PCF controls to enhance that collaborative experience. Why use PCF? Good question. Just in case if you're not familiar with what PCF is, PCF stands for Power Apps Component Framework, and it is a framework for building custom controls for Power Apps application. PCF quickly became a very utilized, and I have to say it's mature framework, one that I would say projects at my work cannot do without. It's a perfect tool to empower both pro and citizen developers alike to further extend and enhance the Power App solution. It often plays a very important role of bridging the gap of what is out of the box and the requirements that we are trying to fulfill. In most cases, it ensures no cliff experience in our delivery to our customers. One of the main reasons why we use PCF in Blackmores is that it allows a centralized and seamless user experience, all from within one platform, one workspace. This is really important when it comes to collaboration, especially when we are dealing with multiple processes and people in their ways of working that require a consistent interaction across all users and across all platforms. Really powerful thing I love about PCF is that it is not limited to just extending the out-of-the-box behavior, but it is capable of so much more, and that it can consume and integrate with external services to bring everything together. We won't cover in depth on the technicality of the PCF or how to build one of these controls here. There are plenty of great examples on Microsoft site, as well as other amazing community resources out there. You can always ping me later if you are interested in finding out more. So do ping me. Now I'm going to demonstrate 4 PCF controls. Not the controls specifically, but the idea and the solution PCF control solves in these collaborative contexts. Just as disclaimer, some of them are proof of concept controls and some are modification of what we currently have in production environment. So yeah, are you ready to see some of these demos? Right. Demo number 1. The first control I want to demonstrate is Microsoft Teams Conversation Control. This control allows users to start a new team conversation from model-driven Power Apps and have that conversation pinned to the record to easily surface and track the replies without having to dig through and search for it within the teams. Just to give you some context, we recently delivered a project for web implementation at Blackmores. So this is the project portfolio management piece. So for each project record we create, we provision a private Microsoft Teams team to provide a collaborative space for the project team members. The team provisioning is done by the Power Automate, where it consumes the Microsoft Graph REST API endpoint to create the Microsoft team. We then store the team ID against the project record to use it to later for managing the permissions for the team and for granting access to SharePoint document size. So this PCF control I'm about to demo is a brand new control. I built it for this presentation. So literally a premiere, and you guys are one of the first to see it. But the idea is to extend and implement it for production environment with the project phase 2. I would like to first actually quickly do a shout out to Tae, my colleague, who helped me with this particular idea. So, okay, let's see this in action, right? Okay, I'm going to move over to my demo environment. Can you see the demo environment? Not sure.
Yes, Tae, it's visible.
Okay, that's great. All right, so here is the project table. I'm going to go and create a new project. And then here I'm going to, in the project name, Asians Innovation Lab. And gonna type in, I don't know, some detail about the word. And as always, I'm going to put myself as a project manager. And as a project sponsor, I'll put Ligu, which is my alter ego. So I'm going to save that. And then what this does behind the screen is that it actually goes and triggers off this particular flow, project provisioning. So let's go there. Let's see if it's going to trigger off. It usually takes some time to kick in. I'm lucky. Nope. I'm just going to wait until this actually gets created because it's quite important to get this. The save doesn't I. Okay, I'm just going to go and create another one just in case. If I capitalize everything, it might actually do it better. Let me just go and fill in both. And save. Okay, so one of the ones kicked off. Let's go have a look. So if I drill down into this flow, as you can see, there are some HTTP action that gets run to actually go and call the Graph API to create the teams. And what it does also is that it actually waits until the team actually gets provisioned. And then when it gets provisioned, it will go and update the project with the team ID and add the member to the team. So if I was to come back here to Teams, I should see to Innovation Lab. So which one am I going to use? I'm going to use the 2021 Innovation Lab, okay? And so here, if I go to Manage Team, you should see myself as the owner and the member. I have, I think a member, it should be Lee Group. This. Obviously, I have not prayed to the demigods today. So let's see. Yes, here it's reflected and you still see the Ligu added to the themes. I'm going to add the channel, which I'll use later for PCF demo purposes, and press add. And while that's getting created, I'm just gonna go jump over to my project record. And in this section here, you should see the Teams conversation control, where it will go and grab some team information using the Graph API, and also have a direct link to open the Teams. And also, I have a little drop down where it actually shows you all the available channels that you have against that team. For those people who are quite curious what's happening behind the scene, it's essentially calling a Microsoft Graph API, and I'm using quite a few of the Teams endpoint, such as messages in the channel, getting replies from the messages in the channel, and all that. So this is actually, if you're not familiar what this is, Graph Explorer is a brilliant playground if anybody wants to go and play with this endpoint. So I'm going to come back here, and then I'm going to go back to, I'm going to go back here and then select ideas and start a conversation. So I'm going to ask, what are some of the innovative projects you want to do this year? If I click your conversation, it'll go off and create the conversation. And then if I come back to my Teams, you can see that same conversation created in Teams. So now I'm going to do some reply and say, I want to work on automation project on Earth and parks. And I send this particular thing. And when I come to Lee Group, my alter ego, she will also have this ideas channel available for her, and she'll reply saying, wow, that's a great idea. Can we collaborate? So I've been having fun like making this small conversation, as you can see. So I have come back here, and then what's a good conversation without an animated GIF, right? So I'm just going to go to give, and then I'm going to type in teamwork and this particular one, and I'll send this. It's awesome. So we got some serious conversation that we are happening over here. So if I come back to this particular record and refresh, you should be able to see the conversation and all the replies, including the animated GIF rendered from the PCF control. So what I'm trying to highlight here is that the most important conversation that you might want to trick against the project, you can do so in this mannerism. And then also, in the case where, say, this conversation is no longer relevant, or if you want to start a new conversation, you can always do that. I say, testing new conversation, then this will also go and call Graph API and start a new conversation, and we can do all of that again, right? So this control is still in its early days, but there are heaps of things that I actually want to improve on this, but I guess that's for some other day, right? So that's the first demo. The second demo that I have for you today is the document tiles control. The idea is similar to team conversation control that allows users to pin documents that are important and frequently accessed by the users. To reduce, this is just in order to reduce the effort of the users again, going searching for the documents in the document library, and also to highlight and really focus on what are the important documents for that particular project, let's say. This control uses Microsoft Dataverse Web API to surface the documents associated with that current record and the records in its direct hierarchy. I will show what I mean by that later. To demonstrate this, I'm going to go to the record that I had prepared earlier. So jumping over here. And then if I go to the Spring On 2021 project, and under the resourcing tab, I have the document tiles control here. And as a context, a project can have a master project, and master project is essentially a grouping mechanism for multiple projects. So in here, in the documents, I have prepared for you, like any good cooking show, some documents that I can use. And also, after a project, if I go in there and go to related documents, I have a document there which might be something, a common document across all the projects that this one is associated to, right? So if I come back here, this PCF control has an edit button. This edit button is configured in such a way that only privileged users will be able to access it, because you don't want every person to be able to edit what gets pinned, right? So obviously I have the privilege. So if I go and click on edit, and then I come and click on master resourcing plan, and I want to also say project resourcing final and make selection, I should be able to pin those documents. So also in that, I can actually filter the location. So let me just demonstrate that for you first. I can go bring on 2020 project AU. Those are the documents only for this project. And the 2021 marketing initiative project, which is for just the master project. So you kind of get the idea of what I meant by in its documents within its direct hierarchy, right? So here I choose master resourcing plan and the project resource final document and make the selection. And then again, these are beautifully displayed in card format using the Microsoft Fluent UI framework. And then if I save this selection will be available for all the users who have access to this project record. And what's really cool is that when you click on it, it will have a unique ID, URL to that particular SharePoint document. So you can also go and have a look. So that's the second demo. And the third demo that I have for you is the document selector control. This is used as part of the document approval process. Similar to the document tile control, we have the ability to select documents associated with the record, as you can see here. But this time, the selection is used to nominate documents to be approved. This control plays a very small part of the process, but it is a very important part, like bridging the gap, as it allows users to stay in the current workspace and have the ability to select more than one document for the approval at a time. So let's see this in action. Back to my projects. Under the Approvals tab, I have Document Selection Control. Here I can select, say, I want to approve Q1 and Q2 budgeting plan and induction bring it on document. So I'll kick off the approval process by executing this particular flow. And what this does is that it will go and send off an approval email to the project sponsor, legal, and also send her a team messaging as well. So I'm just gonna go over to Lee's inbox. I have here, please review and approve this document. Okay, I think that's because I didn't save it if I did it. Let me just do that again. Okay, that's much better. So I didn't save the selection of the document, but the idea is that you will be able to actually get the documents attached with the approval email. And then here, I can, using the adapted card in the Outlook message, type in, say, oh, looks really good. Accept. And I submit. And the outcome of this particular approval will be taken to this project and then saved as the document approvals record. And here you can see when this was sent and what the status of the approval was and also who approved it. So this is again a proof of concept control, and the approval process is really simplified for demo purposes. But for more production-ready solution, you could think about maybe signing the document using something like Adobe Sign and save the signed documents back into the SharePoint document library to keep everything in one location. So for the last demo that I have for you, as a control, I'd like to demonstrate is something I demoed earlier in the Power EdX Hangout. I want to demo this process again, as it really emphasizes on how we can leverage all the different platforms to achieve a consistent user experience. So this adaptive card templating control, the requirement came about because we want to provide a solution where a user can easily submit performance data according to some scoring criteria. We decided to set up the scoring criteria as records and Dataverse and design the forms using adapted cards to send out to the users. In normal circumstances, this would send to Microsoft Teams and Outlook as actionable messages, but we don't want to just stop there, right? So we have decided to create a PCF control to render the same adapted card and model-driven Power Apps as well. For this particular demo, I have extended that control and the process a bit further by introducing the adaptive card templating. This templating aspect is relatively new. I mean, it's not that new, but it's not widely used. I don't know. Introduces the concept of having data and layout separate when authoring one of these adaptive cards. This way, the template payload can be made reusable and the data it binds to more dynamic. The best place to find out more about this is the actual adapted cards site. Here they have the designer section where you can try out the different data and template payload. What I really wanted to point out is the reusable aspect of the template, because it provides a perfect collaboration scenario on the authoring end of the process, where the layout can be worked on by multiple users whilst the data is being reviewed by other team members as well. So let's see this in demo. If I jump back into my demo environment and go to Adaptable Cards, here I have set up a fictitious scenario where I have got a tables within Dataverse to create forms and questions to send users. Here on the adaptive card template is the template payload I was talking to you about earlier. The idea is that the users can set up multiple of these templates here where you can be used on all the different forms that you might create in the future. You can see from this JSON payload some placeholders like title and introduction and everything like that, where the data will be bound to later when the card is rendered. To demonstrate the power of templating, I actually made this into like a little form engine where the UI will be driven by the data. Here you can see where the input type name equals text and input type name is time. Depending on what that is, it uses the advanced binding scope to work out whether this particular UI should be rendered. Right. So in terms of data, we have set up, I have set up this form template, and here you can actually form a template where you can set up the question for this particular form. So here is the question. Now you can have as many questions as you want, and then you can say if I drill down in one of these, you have the question, the placeholder for it, and all that kind of stuff. And if you have multiple you have single choice, you can have, let's say, multiple choices set up for that particular question. And as you can see, as I pointed out earlier when I was talking to you about the adaptive card template, this data type, this has a one-to-one mapping to the input type name that I have mentioned earlier. So that actually drives what input will be rendered in the final adaptive card. So here in the form, this is what binds everything together. Here I have a sprint 1 retrospective survey, and also I specify what data I want to bind to this particular form, as well as what adaptive card template I want to use this form as well. And I can set up the form recipients. So I have currently myself and Ligu. And then once the authoring of this, the template and also setting up the question and everybody's happy, like we can actually change the status reason to published. And what that does behind the scenes is that it triggers off plugin, which will go over and generate the data payload that can be used to bind to the template. So that gets stored. In this format, it does look intimidating. The users would normally not see this, but just to demonstrate that this is what gets generated, right? So here, we want to send form request now. And in order to do that, I'll go and execute the send form request. And since I'm the only one who actually don't have the request, I will get a request and through this particular flow execution. Let's see if this will be appearing very soon. Today, all the demos have been a little bit slow, so let's be patient with this one. There you go. So here we have the actual adaptive card rendered inside, say, the Sprint 1 retrospective here, and that as an Outlook message, as an HTML message. And so the users can fill out the form here, and also they would get the form also sent to their team here, and then you can also submit it in this platform. And lastly, what we are trying to demonstrate is that we can also submit the form through the PCF control that we have built for rendering out the adapted card. So just so that now to go through the whole process, I'm going to answer some of these questions. How did the sprint go? Excellent. What did we do well? Everything. And what should we have done better? We need more cupcakes. My colleagues mean by this. And the top team value we practice in the sprint, obviously team collaboration. Did you have fun? Yes. And what's the rating? I say 9 because there's always room to improve. And I'll set the next sprint date to be, say, the planning date to be on the 30th. So if I submit this form, it will say thank you for submitting. And if I refresh this, there's also some process that goes in the plugin execution, which will go and read what I have submitted, and then it will generate the answers for all the questions that you have answered. So in a normal production scenario, you would have some fancy Power BI report to analyze the submitted answers in more visual ways and all that kind of stuff. So great. So this is everything I have to demo for you today. I really hope that you found it useful and gave you some idea on how to use PCF controls to improve collaborative experience for your users. So thank you very much. And again, you can follow me on any of those links below.